Andrew Rannells, you good?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, fantastic. Andrew Rannells, what are you going to miss most about Girls?
I'm gonna miss that cast. It was 6 years of our lives that we spent together, and for most of us, with the exception of Sasha, it was all of our first television job. None of us had ever worked on TV before, so I think we all became, we sort of experienced all of those firsts together, and got pretty close. So I'm certainly gonna miss seeing all those people.
Mm. And what was the last scene you shot?
The last scene I shot was it was in episode 609, where I burst into the bathroom and I tell our 4 girls that I got the role in White Man Can't Jump, the musical, and then I call them feckless whores, and then I tell them all to eat a dick, and those were my last words on Girls.
Yeah. So, what was it like shooting that scene? And then once they said cut, what was it? What feelings were going through your sort of mind as you look back on the show?
Well, honestly, it was a little strange because we had been wrapping people. Not everybody finishes at the same time, and Alex had already been wrapped. Adam had already been wrapped. There was some discussion about whether or not I was going to be in that 10th episode, so I wasn't sure. I didn't actually know my last day was my last day because the script hadn't been finalized yet. But we wrapped Jemima that day and Sasha that day, and it was it was sad. I mean, it was a sad thing to know it was all coming to a close. The sets were being taken down around us. Like on various parts of the stages, as we finished using Adam's apartment, that went into storage or wherever the hell things like that go. So it was sad, but I think it was great to end that day with a party scene, because we were all there together and it was a pretty fun atmosphere. So that part at least was very nice.
What's your fondest memory looking back on Girls?
My fondest memory are the days that I got to spend with Lena when Elijah and Hannah had crazy scenes to do. Anytime we got to eat, well, we ate a lot of things together, actually, now that I think about it. But I mean, my probably fondest memory, because I really felt like I was a part of the show, and also Lena and I felt like we had become really close, was in our second season, when Hannah decides to try cocaine for the first time. So Elijah and Hannah have a big cocaine bender, and it was a week of Lena and I running around Manhattan and Brooklyn pretending to be high in crazy costumes, and it was just so fun. I had just left, I guess. I just left the Book of Mormon on Broadway, and I was shooting this TV show in New York City and with these amazing people, and I just sort of couldn't believe how lucky I felt to be getting to do all of this work, and also getting to work with these incredible people. And the script was really funny, and Jesse Parrott's our director was just incredible. So yeah, that's a fond memory for me.
I think that was the episode Lena Dunham submitted for the Emmys that year for her acting performance.
I think so. I think that was right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about Elijah for a bit. And
Sure.
How do you think he sort of evolved from season 1 through to season 6 of the show?
Well, he definitely, as I started out, it was supposed to be one episode, and I was just supposed to come in and do that one scene in season 1. It was the 3rd episode. And then they kept asking me to come back. So they really Lena had to create sort of who that character was going to be. She had written this incredible scene for this guy, but there wasn't, a huge backstory for him other than the little pieces that we had sort of heard in that initial scene. So it was fun to watch him and to help, sort of develop him and get him a voice and get him his own weird sense of style and his relationship with each of the girls. I really had a great time. I love working with Lena, and those are always my favorite scenes, but it was fun too in this final season getting to, I'd never really worked with Zasha, like one-on-one. We got to do some stuff together, which was really fun. Jemima and I rarely got to do scenes together. So it was fun to develop like what his relationship was to each of those other characters. I loved playing around with Alex Karpovsky. So it was fun just to watch it. You know, I come from a theatrical background where your circumstances, your story is really mapped out for you, and it doesn't change from night to night. It's the same period of time that you deal with. So the challenge of constantly having to, you know, update your character and figure out how he or she is going to be reacting to any given moment is really exciting and really challenging. And so I just loved getting to see him develop over 6 seasons.
I sort of feel like in the earlier seasons of the show, whenever you came in, it was like, oh no, Elijah's going to cause a lot of drama here. He's going to mix things up. He's sleeping with Marnie. He's getting in fights with Hannah. But then by season 6, you're sort of like almost like a bit more of a comfort, or like you could sometimes calm the drama a bit.
Well, yeah, I think that that Hannah and Elijah's friendship really sort of gets solidified somewhere in there. I would say like around season 4, it becomes really clear that they're like, she has this other side deal with him. She's got her 3 girls, but then there's this other friendship that she has going that I think ultimately, particularly in this final season, I think, you know, provided her with more support than we maybe would have thought when we initially met Elijah. So I was happy to see that develop in such a loving way. As like mean as we could be to each other, I think there was a lot of love in that relationship.
Yeah. You said you and Lena ate a lot of things over the course of the season. What was your favorite meal with Lena?
I mean, it was memorable in that we both became ill afterwards. We did I guess it was in season 5 where we were eating burritos, and we actually, like, I didn't eat at all before we shot it in preparation for the fact that I was going to probably be eating a lot of burritos. And, you know, they go on sets, you know, they will offer you something called the spit bucket. Like you can like chew, and then when they say cut, you spit it out. But that just feels so vile to me. Like there's something so wrong about that I was like, I'll just eat a burrito, big deal. Well, I think we ended up eating like 3 or 4 burritos, which is disgusting, like over the course of several setups and and we both just felt like just violently ill afterwards. So it was a fun scene, and I really love the way that it turned out, but I don't recommend actually eating. I would say just like fake it all the way. Take a couple bites, save it.
Yeah. Maybe there needs to be sort of at a certain point you use the spit bucket.
Exactly.
Like you got to figure out on what number burrito you start using the spit bucket.
Precisely. Yeah. Well, I remember I worked on a show on NBC a few years ago called The New Normal, and Ellen Barkin was one of my co-stars, and she told me, she gave me the trick of like, you put it on your fork, but you never put it in your mouth. It's like you wave it around to give the impression that you're about to eat it, but you never actually eat it. Yeah, and I should have just like taken her advice, just wave that burrito around, but that's all right.
Yeah. In this season, you also talked about White Man Can't Jump in the musical you were auditioning for. And what was that like as someone, a Tony nominee with a theater background, to get to play someone auditioning for musicals and sort of like get to portray that part of your world through Elijah?
It was really exciting. You know, they'd always been Jenny Connor, our showrunner, and Lena Dunham have been incredibly generous with me, inviting me into the writer's room and getting to sort of talk through my arc for the season and sort of what things I'd be up to. And they presented this idea to me before we started filming and asked me for some stories about, you know, things, you know, early audition stories of mine. And I told them this story about auditioning for a musical called Lysistrata Jones that was about a college basketball team. And And it was basically that episode. It was like that was the, you know, I sort of made it through the singing, I made it through the reading, I kind of was okay with the dancing, and then they brought out basketballs, and it was just a disaster. It was a total disaster. So it was crazy because it was interesting to get to be a part of the creation of that story so much. I mean, it was really fulfilling for me. And then the days that we were shooting those sequences, it was strange because it was a thing that I had actually sort of been through in my own life, and here I was doing it again for television. And also, like, the casting director was played by an actor, Marissa Jarrett Winokur, who I did Hairspray with on Broadway. Scott Whitman and Mark Shaman, who wrote that song, Let Me Be Your Star, wrote Hairspray, which is the first Broadway show I was in. Mark came to the set that day to watch me sing that song. So it was a very strange coming together of a lot of different parts of my life in a really satisfying way. I was really happy that I got to do that.
Does Elijah approach an audition differently to you, or the same?
I mean, I think Elijah was I think he was more blindsided. I always sort of knew, like, I was pretty prepared as an auditioner. Only a few times was I ever, like, completely blindsided by, like, the requirements of what the day was going to be. But I like that Elijah just was sort of, like, flying by the seat of his pants and just, like, showed up at an open call and just did it. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah. How are you most like Elijah, and how are you least like Elijah?
I'm most like Elijah. I think that I have very strong opinions about, what's the best way to say this? Sometimes what other people should be doing. I think that I'm better at not saying them out loud, but I still have the knee jerk of, like, well, that's not how I would do it. Elijah just sort of says what he wants, or says what he thinks. I think I'm least like him in sort of I always sort of had a goal and a dream and a vision, and I had, like, a lot of sort of ambition, and I think that he didn't for quite some time. So I think that's where we sort of differ, is that he was sort of happy just to sort of, like, float along, and I wasn't so happy with that.
Now, you did the White Man Can't Jump thing in the season. It called back to your Tony days and your audition days and things like that. You got a Tony nomination this year. Congratulations for
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is... I actually compare it now as a Tony nominee, because this is your second Tony nomination. Your first one was for the Book of Mormon. What's it like, your second nomination for Falsettos?
I mean, I'm so excited. The show closed, Falsettos closed in January, so I think that we were all sort of, it was a limited run through Lincoln Center Theater here in New York, and I was, we were optimistic that we would be remembered in the revival category, but I think performance-wise, no one in the cast really expected to be nominated, and I'm nominated with several of my fellow castmates, which is really fantastic and completely unexpected. But it's a show that has always really meant a lot to me. It was sort of my dream show to do, so the fact that I got to do it at all is really incredible. And then the fact that we are being remembered this Tony season, it means the world to me. It's really, it's very humbling. I mean, I will say the Book of Mormon was incredibly exciting because it was, the biggest job I had ever been a part of, and all these really amazing things were happening. We still had to do the show every night, which was the tricky part, because you're doing all this press during the day, and then you have to go and, like, do your show at night, which was a very demanding show and a lot of fun, but it was very demanding. So to not have to do the show, as much as I miss it, is it's kind of great. Yeah, because we're just, like, I was with my cast earlier today, and we did some interviews, and then we just got to go and have, like, lunch afterwards. It was very nice. We didn't have to run off to the theater or anything.
Yeah, you can all go catch a show.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good. But no, so that's pretty exciting. And what was it like with Book of Mormon? It won Best Musical. So what's it sort of, what was that whole whirlwind like of being part of a Best Musical at the Tonys? That's something that will sort of last the test of time. So.
Yeah, it was. I think it just opened in Australia. Actually, I don't know if they're in. Are they in Sydney right now? I think, or maybe they're someplace else.
I'm trying to remember if they're in Sydney or Melbourne.
They might be. I think maybe they opened in Melbourne, but I'm not sure.
So.
But they. But they're there now. It was exactly as you said. It was a whirlwind because we, we knew it was going to be special because Trey Parker and Matt Stone were writing it with the incredible Bobby Lopez, who had had a huge success with Avenue Q. And so we knew it was going to be great. I wasn't sure. I couldn't have predicted that it would still be running 6 years later and it would be all over the world. I think I kind of thought we would find like a smaller audience that wasn't going to be hugely offended by what we were doing on stage. But it turns out we weren't really offending many people at all. I remember we were like preparing for all sorts of like protests and all sorts of things, and none of that ever happened. Everybody sort of was on board with it, and I think it's a testament to like how much heart Trey and Matt put into their work. I think it's not just like, it's not just cursing for cursing's sake. It's there's a story that they're telling, and it's a really beautiful, heartfelt story about friendship. So it was a very exciting time, and it was a crazy, like every celebrity we could ever imagine was coming to see that show and coming backstage to meet us, and every night was like a new surprise. And I feel like that first year I was in the show, it just sort of flew by because there was so much activity and so much going on. It was very exciting.
Yeah,
and it's how I met Lena Dunham, because she was at opening night. Yeah, she was at opening night, and a couple weeks later, I got a phone call asking if I would meet with her, and they sent me Tiny Furniture to watch, and I watched her first movie, and then came in and read with her and auditioned with the scene that they had written, and then we just sort of improvised and played around. But it was because of the Book of Mormon that I met Lena.
That's really cool. And what do you think with Lena is her sort of legacy that she's leaving behind with Girls? Like, what's the legacy of Girls from her voice?
I think that, it's funny because I feel like her work and her style of storytelling and the character she created, I sort of see versions of it pop up in television now in different shows. I think that the way that show looked in the first season, and the way the characters were sort of relatable but not always likable, in a really like grounded way, I think is something that hadn't really been seen, and also particularly for young women. I think that she gave them the story of these four girls who were far from perfect, but were trying their best to sort of figure out their own problems, and thinking they were always like way farther ahead than they were and way smarter than they were. And it was just an honesty and a clarity about that time in your life that I think hadn't really been seen on television. Usually it gets kind of cleaned up, or there's, I don't know, people are a little more, they're not quite as in depth as she created those four women to be. So having been that age in the city and gone through that period of my life in New York, I had never seen anything that was so truthful before. So I think that's what she's leaving behind. And you can see where she's definitely affected other shows, I think. And this is the beginning of her career. This is her first show. So I can't wait to see what she's up to next.
Mm. And what are you going to be up to next, Andrew?
Well, the next month is it's sort of back here in New York. I'm back with my Falsettos family, and we're doing a lot of press for the Tony Awards. We're going to be performing at the Tony Awards, so there'll be some rehearsals for that. And then a little vacation time, I think. I've been very fortunate since the Book of Mormon to have been going sort of steadily, and have been really lucky that on my hiatuses from Girls, I was able to jump back into a Broadway show. Was able to do Hedwig and Hamilton, and so I've always, you know, been able to sort of come back and do that and work on other projects as well. But it's been a very busy 6 years, so I'm gonna go on a vacation.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
No, she gets down to Australia, Andrew.
I should. You know, when the Book of Mormon was opening there, that was my plan, but we were still working, so.
Oh well. So it's so exciting. All the best for the Emmy Awards for Girls. All the best for the Tony Awards for Falsettos. And all the best for your vacation.
Thank you very much. And thanks for waking up so early to talk with me too.
No worries at all, Andrew. It was a lot of fun.
It was fun.